Dr. Mindy here, and on this video, I'm going to expand on this idea around what the heck do we do with belly fat. So I specifically want to dive into food. I know I talk a lot about fasting, but it's time for us to talk about foods and how to pair those fasts with really good foods that will help you get rid of the belly fat. And if you are new to my channel, I just want to say welcome. I'm a woman on a mission to get everybody healthy. But specifically, I want to give you some really free and easy tools that you can do now. So hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and let's dive in. Let's address belly fat. So happy that you're here. Okay, so belly fat. This is like a really common question that we get a lot from you guys. And I really want to dial it in and give you some specific things that you can apply today. But before I do that, I really want to explain, like, what is fat? Why does it accumulate at the belly? Why do we accumulate fat in general? And then I'm going to go into 3 specific food groups that you've got to incorporate and understand why you're incorporating them so we can finally get rid of this belly fat. So here's the first concept. I really cannot say this enough that I want us to stop villainizing fat, because there is a reason that your body is accumulating fat, and it's because it needs a storage spot for the excess. So the excess hormones, the excess toxins, the excess glucose. So when your body accumulates fat around parts of that you don't like, especially the belly, we have to stop and remember that the body's giving us a message. So how do we go after that excess? And how do we stop villainizing fat? That's another really key point. Stop looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself horrible things when your body was trying to save your frickin' life. So let's have more of an appreciation of, like, wow, the body's doing the right thing at the right time. Thank you, body. Now I want to unwind that and make sure you don't have to store fat anymore. So there are 3 things I want you to think about. The first is that we've got to look at what the major organ that helps us detoxify. Because if we are storing extra toxins and fat, let's dive into the most important organ in the body for detoxification, and that's the liver. Now, when we look at the liver, we have a very specific category of foods the liver needs you to feed it so that it can do its detoxification properly. And we call those bitter foods. And this always kind of leaves people in this quandary of, like, well, what is a bitter food? So I'm going to give you some of my favorite. And this is literally my most favorite. I've eaten this a couple times this week, and it is radicchio. And I actually will use radicchio to wrap it around meat. So I'll put a burger in it. It becomes my bun for on the days I'm going low carb. I'll wrap it around some turkey slices with some grass-fed cheese and eat it like a little wrap. It is so firm that it actually works a lot like bread, and the liver loves it. So radicchio is a phenomenal option. The other option, and I put this in my salads all the time, actually did this last night, is dandelion greens. You've probably heard of dandelion green tea. I like to just get the fiber itself, so I like to go to the actual dandelion green itself. And what I'll do, for those of you who are like, well, what do I do with a dandelion green, is that I actually will take the green and I will cut it up. I'll take some scissors, or I'll chop it with a knife, and I'll cut it up and put it in a mixed salad. So last night, we actually had a mixed green salad with dandelion greens, radicchio, and some other mixed greens. I threw some mint into it. We had a grass-fed steak and a sweet potato, and it was like perfection on a plate. But it really was there was a healing aspect to that meal other than a taste aspect, and dandelion greens were a really important part of that to help support liver health. Outside of things like radicchio and dandelion greens, my next favorite bitter food is ginger. I am a huge fan of fresh pressed ginger. I have been known to walk into a health store and just grab one of those ginger shots and drink it. You can press it yourself. You can put this in tea. You can cut it up and put it in a smoothie. That would be a beautiful way to do it, but it's great support for the liver. Outside of that, we've got lemons are also really great. I mean, we can even look at things like coffee, where coffee is a bitter. If you're doing it clean coffee, that can be supportive of the liver. I mean, I've talked a lot on this channel about the importance of coffee enemas. Well, what does coffee do? Coffee dilates. And so when we're looking to open up the liver so it can get all those toxins out and it doesn't forward it on to the belly to store it as fat, then we want to lean into, some clean coffee. This is not your coffee you go get at your coffee shop unless it's an organic one. This is organic, without chemicals, without mold. That's the kind of coffee you want. I've got a bunch on my website if you want to go look at my favorite. And then the other one that I recently have been dabbling with, I know we got a lot of chefs here on this channel, is something like cranberries. But this isn't like cranberry juice or a dried cranberry where we add sugar to it. This is like a cranberry that you, again, would take an organic cranberry, throw it into a smoothie. It's going to be a little tart, but it's also going to be very supportive of the liver. So those are some of my favorites that I've used personally for bitter foods. But overall, to support the liver and reduce the belly fat, we want the bitter foods. Second concept, and this one's really important for you to get. So what controls blood sugar is our microbiome. So we need to feed the microbes in our gut and make sure we have a really diverse set of microbes so that we can regulate blood sugar. If we've been on antibiotics for a long time, if you've been on decades of birth control, if you've had a lot of steroid use, what you're going to see, and you've been under a lot of stress, what you're going to see is your microbiome is deficient of a good variety of microbes. And you may find that your blood sugar is higher than you want it to be. When I'm working with a patient one-on-one, when I can't get blood sugar down, I go to the liver and I go to the gut to be able to look at how do we regulate blood sugar from that angle as opposed to just looking at fasting, which I love, of course, and looking at supplementation. I know a lot of you have asked me about like cinnamon and things like that. But what I want you to do is start to put some of these hacks I'm giving you into a daily regime that works really well. So when we go to the gut, I have some very clear, tried and true ones. The first is bone broth. Now, I want to explain why bone broth works so well. It has something called glycine in it, and glycine will heal the inner lining of your gut. And it will prevent, it can actually stop a leaky gut. So one of my favorite gut hacks is to fast up to 24 hours. I wrote about that in Fast Like a Girl, and then break your fast with bone broth. Now we've actually started to heal the gut in one day. It only takes, by the way, 3 days of consistent, good eating, good fasting to change that microbiome. So can you add more bone broth in, especially when you go to break your fast? Second piece is that we've got to look at something, well, I'll go here for next. We've got to look at some of the probiotic foods that we want to add in. So raw kefir is one of my favorite because it has trillions of good bacteria. I love Raw Farm. I have no financial ties to them. I just love them as humans, and they're on a mission to try to change the microbiome of the world through raw dairy. And this one has turmeric in it. It has some cinnamon, so it can help with that blood sugar coming down, but it's also got trillions of bacteria, more powerful than even a probiotic. I break my fast often with this. And then the last part of the microbiome, especially for women, that I want to talk about is the power of the estrobolome. Now, this is a set of bacteria in your gut that break estrogen down. If we go back to what I said in the beginning of this video, the reason that we accumulate fat, especially around the belly, is because of excess. So one of those excesses is estrogen. You've got to have a good microbiome to break estrogen down. Otherwise, your body stores it as fat, especially belly fat. So are you eating enough green leafy vegetables? So parsley is always in my refrigerator. I cut this up and put it in salads almost every day. Outside of that, I look to get I like to get anywhere between 4 and 8 cups of green leafy vegetables a day. When I make a salad, I put mixed greens in it. I put parsley, I put mint, I put radicchio, I put dandelion greens. So I try to use a salad as my tool, my healing tool, to be able to support my liver and my microbiome. That combination now has my liver detoxifying the bad estrogens, and it has me breaking those bad estrogens down and the good estrogens down so the good can be used and the bad can go away. This is the level of nuance that we need to start talking about when we're looking at something as simple as belly fat. We've got to break down how you can get rid of that and understand it from a deeper level, because your body is always doing the right thing at the right time. Okay, I got to interrupt this video because I have a free guide for you so you can master fasting. It's called A Beginner's Guide to a Fasting Lifestyle, and all you've got to do is click here and you can jump right in. Last thing I want to tell you, when we look at blood sugar, we want to look at stability. And if your blood sugar is doing this all day long, what happens is in those peaks of glucose, you're also getting a peak of insulin. And as many people are moving more towards insulin resistance, what happens is that we're starting to see that the body doesn't know how to even stabilize something as simple as a sweet potato, my favorite carbohydrate on the planet. So putting our carbs with a fat slows down the spike of blood sugar, which is a brilliant thing. So grass-fed butter goes on everything I can possibly put on it. I also add avocado to almost everything that I eat. The salad I talked about that I made last night had a whole avocado in it. Many of you have commented on the recipe in Fast Like a Girl where I show you how to break your fast with avocado and sauerkraut. But when you add a fat into every single meal, you are stabilizing your blood sugar. When you stabilize your blood sugar, you're not getting these big spikes and these big crashes. When you don't have the big spike, there's no glucose to store. There's nothing to store. There's no insulin to store. When you're cleaning up the liver, the liver's detoxifying in a normal, healthy way. There's nothing to store. When we start to add in some really smart microbiome repair foods, like I spoke of, you're regulating your blood sugar, and now you don't have that glucose and insulin at high levels. So there's nothing to store. That's the trick. I want you to see this so clearly, that the art to losing weight exists in fasting and food. Yes, movement's going to help. I love movement. You won't ever hear me say don't exercise, don't move. But what I want you to understand is stop saying mean things to yourself. Stop villainizing the fat. It just needs you to treat it a different way. And this is how it wants you to eat. So as always, I hope that helps, and please put in the notes, because we are a community here on YouTube, put in the comments what you notice with the different length fasts and then adding some of the foods back in, what you notice, so that we can start to see that is of critical essence for you. Now, if you want to go into more detail with this, come join me in my Resetter Academy. This is where we're taking the people in our academy and we're helping them customize nutrition and fasting for their own benefit. I love inspiring you guys here on YouTube, but if you need more help, we have created that membership group for you. But as always, you can't give up on yourself. Stop shaming yourself. Stop telling yourself horrible things. Your body is perfect. It is working in perfection. It just needs you to have the owner's manual, and I'm trying to give you the owner's manual. Just like I taught you in Fast Like a Girl that fasting can be medicine, food can be medicine too for the female body. The first food, I'm on a quest to bring this food back. And I have it written all over Eat Like a Girl. I have the Chef Leslie, who did the plant-based track for Eat Like a Girl, is obsessed with this food, gave us some great recipes, and I want to bring this food back. Are you ready? I feel like there should be a drum roll. Boom, boom. It's soy. Soy. We started avoiding soy because somewhere along the line, we got the message that soy would cause breast cancer. Okay, soy is a phytoestrogen. So that means, phytoestrogen means it's a plant-based estrogen. When we look at estrogen, there's toxic estrogen. Those of you who ever run a Dutch test or a hormone test, we call that 4-OH. And it is toxic estrogen, and it causes breast cancer. And then there is protective estrogen. We call this 2-OH. And 2-OH protective estrogen is a very, very helpful estrogen, and you need lots of it, and soy provides that for you. So if you're not convinced, let me tell you a couple interesting studies. The first one is a 2019 meta-analysis that basically showed that women who added soy into their diets lost weight. Okay, why would that be? Because when we bring in these phytoestrogens and we get this protective estrogen up, it helps balance out the harmful estrogens. And it's the harmful estrogens that you're getting in your skin products, that you're getting in pesticides that are sprayed. So make sure your soy is organic. The pesticides that are sprayed on fruits and vegetables, that those are endocrine disruptors. So just like we've talked about omega-3, omega-6 balance, we need to talk about protective estrogen and harmful estrogen balance. Really, really important. So you would lose weight because you brought up your protective estrogen, which helped counteract the toxic estrogen that your body's been accumulating in fat. So then when I dove in deeper, I found some really interesting studies. I've brought this to you all before, but in case you didn't see this video, that actually there was another study that showed that women who are going through menopause, this is a 2021 review, found that if they were eating soy, their menopause symptoms reduced. Again, when we look at estrogen, we can't just clump everything in the estrogen category. Like estrogen dominance is not an increase of good estrogen. Estrogen dominance is an increase in the toxic estrogen. You want to use food strategically to increase this protective estrogen. And when you do, your menopause symptoms will be better and you'll lose weight, according to these two studies that I will link and put in the notes. I also have a really good, if you're interested in that topic, I have a really good Resetter podcast that I did with my favorite integrative OB. And we geeked out on phytoestrogens, so I'll link that in the notes here too. Okay, so where do you get soy? Well, I like edamame. I think edamame because it's a soybean. It's the original source. You can get it in tofu. I like tofu or tempeh. Those are both. Tempeh sometimes people can handle better because it's fermented. But soy milk is highly pasteurized, so I'm not a fan of soy milk. But I am a fan of edamame and tofu and tempeh. So be strategic and make sure you're getting clean soy products. Okay, so that's soy. Are you ready for number 2? This gets better. Number 2, dark chocolate. Okay, yes, healthiest foods that women need. Now, the reason I like chocolate is for several things. I like it because it's got magnesium in it. So for me, at the end of a day, I will, at the end of a day and I have my dinner, then I'll have a little square of chocolate because it just makes my brain happy and it's some magnesium to help me sleep. But the science says that there's some other really interesting reasons why you would want to have chocolate is because it's high in what they call naringenin. And naringenin is a phytoprogestin that will naturally increase progesterone levels. So it's also, we know that dark chocolate is packed with lots of polyphenols, which is great for gut health. So let's look at the two I've given you. We know soy can raise the protective estrogen, and chocolate can raise your progesterone. When we're going through menopause, what's happening is this ratio is going off. So a daily dose of some edamame and chocolate, maybe not at the same time, although somebody should come up with a recipe on that, can really naturally help you balance out these two levels. And what I love too is that my chefs in Eat Like a Girl have so many chocolate recipes. When we sat down to build out this book together, I was like, I need lots of chocolate. It's amazing for women. There's so many reasons why we should do chocolate, and really good, high quality, organic dark chocolate. So if you want to know how to make some great recipes in here, I highly recommend checking out Eat Like a Girl. Okay, but here's what I think is really interesting about chocolate is that not all chocolate's the same. So make sure you're getting one that's 70% or higher. That's important. You don't want your chocolate to be like a 50% or milk chocolate. It needs to be dark chocolate. Okay, number 3 is wild caught fish. Now, wild is important compared to farm. Farm is basically they put it in a container and it doesn't have as many omegas, whereas wild, it's been out swimming in long distances and it has a lot of good omegas. So, not only is wild caught fish high in protein, which we need. So the thing about menopause in general is that we are really fighting for muscle, and wild caught fish really has a high amount of protein. So you're not just getting the omegas. I feel like the protein amount doesn't get talked enough about. So wild caught fish is really important to bring that protein up. But there was actually a 2021 meta-analysis that showed that omega-3s in general can improve sex hormone production and can decrease inflammation. So this analysis actually went on to say that there are 10 different studies that show that omega-3s increase estrogen and progesterone production, that they protect against oxidative stress, and they decrease inflammation. So now we've got ourselves some fatty fish that's helping with estrogen and progesterone production. I actually see a meal forming out of this video. One of my favorite recipes in here that Chef Leslie made was a kimchi edamame bowl. Oh, so good. If you paired that with some just broiled salmon, which Chef Jeff put a really good salmon recipe in here, and then do some chocolate. Now you have yourself not only a yummy meal, but you have yourself a meal that's helping your hormones. So again, food is hormonal medicine when we use it right. Now, what are the fish that are best for omega-3s? It's an interesting one because salmon is the most tasty to me, but when we look at like really dense omega-3 foods, we have to be looking at mackerel and anchovies, sardines, herring. All of those can be really good. So if you like those fatty fishes, make sure you include them on a daily basis. Chef Jeff did something really interesting I was really excited about in Eat Like a Girl. He did a sardine tostada, and he actually created a little breading with some hemp seeds around the outside of it. Mwah! It is so good and a beautiful way to get sardines in. So again, get yourself a copy of Eat Like a Girl so you can get some of those recipes. But that's wild caught fish. So that's number 3 of the foods. We have anybody's mouth salivating yet? I'm hungry, I know, doing this video. Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free, and it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool, and it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on this link right here and enjoy. Okay, number 4, the 4th most important food for women is actually a category of food, and it's complex carbohydrates. Now, I'm not a big fan of high carb diets. I believe that women should cycle high carb or higher carb with lower carb. In both Fast Like a Girl and Eat Like a Girl, I have talked about the fact that the 2 food styles I like are ketobiotic, that's a lower carb style, and hormone feasting foods, which is a higher carb style. So what I'm about to tell you would be great when you're in your higher carb days, your hormone feasting days. And here's what's really interesting. And by the way, if that's a new concept for you, what I want to encourage you to do is look at this higher carb the week before your period, or for my perimenopausal women, it's when the anxiety kicks in, or for my postmenopausal women, at least once or twice a week, I want you to include these complex carbs. And honestly, my favorite of all favorite, outside of chocolate, is a sweet potato. And there's a lot of different versions of sweet potatoes. So remember that each sweet potato has a different color, and each color brings a different set of antioxidants. So make sure when you go to the store, you get the purple ones. Sometimes you get the white ones. Sometimes you get the yellow ones. But sweet potatoes are great complex carbs for women. Squashes are great. Carrots are great. Beets are amazing. Chickpeas are off the hook. I love taking carrots and dipping it into hummus. It's a great, yummy yummy meal, but also incredible for hormones. And then, of course, we have our legumes like lentils and beans. And we have all, I mean, it's funny because this video, there's over 100 recipes in here that will really support all of these foods. So complex carbs. Complex carbs means they have fiber, but the ones I mentioned specifically are great for women. Number 5. Ready? Berries. I love berries. I talk about berries, I feel like, on every video here. But the reason berries are great is that they're low in sugar, high in fiber, and they're packed with antioxidants. If we throw around the word antioxidant a lot without really explaining what it is. It's like a multivitamin. Nature made you a multivitamin to protect your cells from all the toxic damage. So we want to make sure that we're eating lots of berries. And there was an interesting, we think of berries for brain health. My sweet friend, Jim Quick, I just love that man. I brought him on my podcast and we talked a lot about the superfood power, brain superfood power of berries. And as I've researched berries more, it's really interesting. Like this study I just found that people who are overweight who ate blackberries, which are really great, showed a greater fat oxidation and increased insulin sensitivity. So let's maybe get out of the blueberry lane and get into like the blackberry. I know that my daughter lives in Idaho, and she was telling me huckleberries are really popular. I was like, huckleberries? I've never tried that. I can tell you by me here in California, a wall of berries show up 2 weeks out of the year, and I grab them, and they're so tasty. So different berries have different antioxidant, pack a different antioxidant punch. But what's interesting about this study is that they're finding that the blackberry actually can show a greater fat breakdown. That's what oxidation means, and that it can increase your insulin sensitivity. So remember how I talk about hemoglobin A1C all the time? What I'm saying here is that you can add blackberries in to really improve that hemoglobin A1C measurement. Again, food is medicine when you know how to use it. The other thing about berries is it can slow aging. So those of you that are looking to slow that process down, the polyphenols in berries really help to preserve brain function, which is what my sweet friend Jim Quick taught us in the Resetter podcast. So they're yummy. They help with insulin sensitivity. They help you break down fat, and they keep you cognitively performing cognitively well. And they taste good. It's not like I'm giving you a horrible food to eat. So let's bring berries back into the conversation. So some of the berries that you might look at, strawberries are interesting. Be careful that they're not sprayed with pesticides. Blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, cranberries, because they're a little bitter. Remember, all bitter foods help the liver, and we need the liver to break hormones down. So you do have a good selection there, hopefully, especially if you're in the summertime where berries are prolific. But those are the 5. Okay, soy, we had dark chocolate, we had wild-caught fish, we have the complex carbs like the squashes and the potatoes, and then we have the berries. And I got to tell you, the book is packed with recipes. If you want to know how to make those, my chefs knew how to turn science and what I just taught you into delicious recipes. So Eat Like a Girl's out right now. And if you have a copy, depending on when you're listening to this, tell me your favorite recipe in there. But most of all, keep believing in yourself. Food is hormonal medicine when you understand its power. So keep leaning into the right food so you can just discover how beautiful this body is and how blessed you are to live in this incredible home.
So many of you are fasting because you want the stem cells. And you've heard that, God, if I get more stem cells, then I'm going to slow down the aging process. And you're absolutely right. But what I'm going to talk about on this video is a totally new twist on stem cells. And that is, what are the 5 most important foods that you can eat to repair stem cells? And I'm going to talk in a moment about why repairing stem cells is so important. But I wanted to bring food into the stem cell conversation because so many of us are over in the fasting window chasing our longer fast to try to get more stem cells so we can slow down aging, when really there's some cool things you can be doing in your eating window to get a very similar result with your stem cells. So in this video, we're gonna dive into these 5 amazing foods. I've got one bonus for you, and we're gonna talk about the power of stem cells and why we should all be chasing them. So, a stem cell. In all the research I've done just on cellular health, I have to say that the stem cell is the most fascinating version of the 72 trillion cells we have in our body. And here's why. When a stem cell is living in your body, it is basically an undifferentiated cell, meaning it can pretty much turn into any cell. It's like a chameleon. It can go into multiple organs and can actually go in there and turn into a healthy version of that cell. So for example, when we're little, we have a ton of stem cells that really help us grow our body stronger and bigger. And the stem cells, sometimes you'll have a stem cell that will turn into bone. Sometimes you'll have a stem cell that will turn into brain. So it's this really powerful cell that has all these capabilities of reinvigorating and growing healthy tissue in all of your organs. So, but what we are now learning is that there's certain lifestyle behaviors that destroy these stem cells. And I want to start off with that because it's important to know that certain foods you eat, when you're not sleeping enough, when you're under a lot of stress, you are literally destroying these magical cells that are serving you and helping you grow a really healthy body and helping make sure that we're not having any aging body parts. So some of the activities that destroy some stem cells, I already mentioned. My big one right now that I'm just going after that I'm really upset about is a category of food called obesogens. And if you've been listening to my podcast or some of my other videos, I'm really upset with these certain obesogens that are allowed into our food. And what they do is they hijack your stem cells and tell your stem cells to make fat cells. So when we're looking at this obesity epidemic that we are in right now, the first thing we have to do in the stem cell conversation is we have to stop these obesogens from coming into our food system. And some of them are like, we've talked about this here before, like the code word natural flavors. Natural flavors is just a code for putting a lot of small little toxins in a food that are not detected in high amounts to have to be qualified to put onto an ingredient list, but that actually are obesogens that have the potential to turn your stem cells into fat cells. Another one that I'm really upset about is flavor enhancers like MSG or BHT or BHA. All of those, when you're reading an ingredient label, when you see words that sound like chemicals, many of them are these obesogens that are hijacking your stem cells and are telling them to go make fat. And that's really frustrating when you're trying to lose weight. So the first thing I want you to do is start to read ingredients and get the chemicals out. That's the easiest thing that I can tell you at this particular moment. Then we want to look at how do we reinvigorate the stem cells that may be slowly losing their effectiveness. And that's where these 5 foods come in. And they all fall under the category of something called a polyphenol food. And you've probably heard me talk about the polyphenols. I wrote about them in Fast Like a Girl. I'm a fan of taking polyphenols and breaking your fast with them because they're so great for your microbiome. And so when we go into periods of a fasted state and then we go into food, it's super important that we get these polyphenols into our diet to help repopulate those microbes in your gut. But the other thing that polyphenol foods do is they start to repair these injured stem cells. So I'm going to give you an example so you can kind of put into context everything I've told you so far. You're going along your day. You've been shopping and eating according to your taste buds. You haven't really been reading the ingredient labels. You didn't realize that there were toxins in your food that were actually turning these stem cells into fat cells. And you're gaining weight and you don't understand it. And you hear a video like this and you're like, wait a second, I didn't realize that my fast food, I didn't realize that my favorite food that has all these toxins in it is actually contributing to more fat cells. So how do I repair this? How do I change this? And that's where a diet high in polyphenol foods come in, because we start to repair these stem cells when we add these polyphenol foods in. And what's interesting about polyphenol foods, I want to read a couple of studies for you on polyphenol foods in general, and I will link them here. But it's important that you know them, because a lot of you are dealing with some of this stuff. So, for example, we know a 2022 study found that increasing polyphenols was incredibly helpful with people who had dementia. Because in dementia, you have these neurons that are starting to decay. And when you increased a diet high in polyphenols, what it did is it went in and it made these stem cells stronger so they would repair the neurons instead of decrease the neurons. So that's just one example of how that worked. There's another really interesting example of where polyphenols actually regenerated brain cells in people who had Parkinson's. We also have evidence, scientific evidence, showing that polyphenols will help to repair and increase stem cells' effectiveness in repairing teeth and gums. So these foods, for those of you who are dealing with any mouth problems, these could be really important. And that overall, a diet rich in polyphenols will absolutely slow down the aging process, because you have more of these youthful stem cells that can go into tissue and help regrow these tissues and make them new again. So hopefully I got you excited about these things. Now let's talk about the 5 that you want to focus in on. So number 1, and God, do we keep hearing about this food, and if you're not eating it, like, it's time, and it's blueberries. I did an incredible interview with Jim Quick on how do we power up our brain, and he was a big fan of blueberries, and he was like, that's your number 1 superfood for your brain. Well, when we look at the science on polyphenols and stem cells, it absolutely shows that the qualities of a blueberry can help to repair the stem cells that work on your brain cells. So more blueberries, as many blueberries as you possibly can. Of course, if you get them from a regenerative farm with good soils, they're going to have more polyphenols in them. And then eating them as often as you can, making sure they're organic is another good trick that I like. So number 1 is let's eat more blueberries. Okay, number 2. This is one I became fascinated with when I started to juice more. And it is turmeric. So the interesting thing about turmeric is how ugly does that look? Like, it looks like a little bit like a worm, and it would be easy to pass this up when you're in a supermarket. But I want to show you something. I want to show you, hold on. I want to show you the color inside turmeric is insane. So one of the characteristics of polyphenols is they have bright colors. Think about this. The blueberry is bright. We've got turmeric is this bright color. And what we know about turmeric is not only is it high in polyphenols, but it actually is a known anti-inflammatory. And it's because it has a component in it called curcumin. So some of you may be already, taking supplements with curcumin, but when we bring the inflammation down from adding turmeric into our diet, what you're doing is think about it this way, you're taking this dysfunctional stem cell that maybe got exposed to all these obesogens, it's inflamed, it's making fat cells, and now all of a sudden you come in and you give it turmeric, and what happens is the inflammation in that stem cell goes down. Turmeric is a huge anti-inflammatory. And so when that inflammation comes down, that stem cell starts to become more effective again. So we used it in my household for many years. Whenever I had juiced, I would take one of these strange little worm-like looking turmerics, and I would put it in every batch of juice because it's a huge anti-inflammatory, making all of our cells more efficient, but especially those stem cells. So turmeric powder, turmeric tea, I like going to the food source, so really, really cool concept. Some of you already know this, that they're showing a 2,000% increase in the anti-inflammatory effects of curcumin when you pair it with black pepper. So a little bit of black pepper with your turmeric, and you're bringing down the inflammation around these stem cells, giving them a chance to do their jobs more effectively. So number 2 is turmeric.
Okay, I gotta interrupt this video because I have a free guide for you so you can master fasting. It's called A Beginner's Guide to a Fasting Lifestyle, and all you've got to do is click here and you can jump right in.
Okay, number 3, this one's good. This one is so good. Like so far, I brought you some really, really tasty ones. Number 3 is coffee. Okay, how cool is that? So your cup of coffee, when you do it right, and we're going to talk about what right looks like, in the morning can actually help specifically, check this out, stem cells that will boost the immune system and stem cells that will slow down aging. Your cup of coffee in the morning. But it's not just any cup. So when we look again at what causes these stem cells to become inflamed, to be less efficient, to make fat cells, it's chemicals. Let's just put it in the category of chemicals. So you come to coffee and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been going to my local coffee shop every single morning, drinking the coffee that they have, and you're telling me that's slowing down aging? Well, it's clean coffee that slows down aging, because if your morning cup of coffee has chemicals in it, you're actually hurting your stem cells. Whereas if you do clean coffee that isn't sprayed with pesticides, that doesn't have mold in it, that has been grown in a regenerative farm, usually as a smaller batch, you are now getting this polyphenol hit that will absolutely reinvigorate these stem cells, specifically, again, the ones that affect your immune system and slow the aging process down. So are you starting to see how we can use these polyphenols as a beautiful way to rehab, perhaps, or to overcome a lifestyle full of toxins that has been making us age a lot faster? So number 3 was coffee. Okay? You like me so far, right? I haven't told you anything too crazy. Okay, now we might get into some food preferences. Number 4 polyphenol-rich food that I highly recommend that everybody eat is salmon. Now, with salmon, it's really interesting because the stem cells that are helped by the nutrients, specifically the omega-3s that are in salmon, are the ones that repair your gut. So think about this for a second. Those of you that have been coming to a fasting lifestyle to repair your gut, be a beautiful thing to break your fast with some salmon, because now you've changed the terrain in your gut, and then everything's sort of in a neutral state now, and then you bring in some salmon as a break fast meal, and now all of a sudden you're reinvigorating these stem cells that are continuing the repair of the gut process. This is why I'm such a fan of this metabolic switching. It's like we can use food to heal and we can use fasting to heal, and they're both amazing. So when we look at salmon, we know that it's not only an anti-inflammatory, because, I mean, so many people already know that salmon is high in omega-3s, but it's specific at regenerating those stem cells that will help you build a healthier gut. Now, interesting thing to say about salmon that I just want to point out is the waters that salmon are in really matters. So wild salmon is always better than farm fresh, always. You're going to have more omega-3s in there. So whenever I'm at a restaurant, if I go to the grocery store, I always ask them, is this from wild waters or is this a farm raised? Because the farm raised will have less omega-3s. Okay. And then the 5th one, and another one that there's a lot to unpack on before I go into my favorite bonus one, is skipjack tuna. Now, what's interesting about skipjack tuna, and I've fallen prey to this, I really stopped eating tuna when I started to understand heavy metals, specifically mercury. Mercury is one of those heavy metals that will lead towards learning disabilities and anxiety, and gives you that ADD, wound up, agitated brain. There's nothing good about mercury. So when there became very clear that tuna had high amounts of mercury because of how polluted our waters are, there emerged this new concept around skipjack tuna. And what's interesting about skipjack tuna is it's a smaller tuna, and it's kind of like a baby tuna, and so it doesn't have as much time in the water to accumulate all that mercury. So this one I actually found in a can like this at my local health food store. And it says on it that it is, it's Poland wild line caught, which we love, and that it's lower in mercury because it is a skipjack tuna. So those of you who are like, oh my God, I'd like to eat tuna again, I give you permission. Just make sure that it's skipjack. So those are the 5, and I'm hoping you're thinking beyond the concept of just these foods. I want you thinking, oh wow, I have these stem cells. They repair any cell in my body. And if I make a lot of them, and if I keep them very healthy, then I will slow the aging process down. So if you've already connected that dot, you're absolutely right. Now, what I've taught you all up until now is the power of stem cells when you fast. And that absolutely is true. I still stand by that. I've shared with you all how I healed many musculoskeletal problems by going into some longer fasts. But what I want you now to do is take that level of thinking, and I want you to come over to this food concept, and I want you to realize that, wait, I can dip into my fasted states and I can regenerate these stem cells. Like a 24-hour fast, I taught you all in Fast Like a Girl, a 24-hour fast regenerates intestinal stem cells. And then I can come on over here, and when I go into food, I can eat something like salmon that's going to continue that regeneration of those intestinal stem cells. So it's a beautiful way to use both of these metabolic states to repair this magic cell that is working in your favor. And, overall, what I really want you to understand is that chemicals destroy stem cells. Fasting reinvigorates stem cells. Foods that are high in polyphenol will reinvigorate stem cells as well. And then when you want to get into the specific body part, you can look and go, okay, blueberries are for brain, salmon is for gut, coffee is for the immune system. Like, you can start to really piece this apart for yourself. Now, the last thing I want to say, and I couldn't do a video on polyphenols without talking about my favorite polyphenol food on the planet, and that is an olive. And let me tell you why I love olives. They are literally like the perfect food for the faster, because you can eat them in your fasting window and stay fasted. They have no protein, they are all fat, they will not spike your blood sugar, and if you eat them in your fasting window, you're getting this punch of polyphenols that is actually accelerating the stem cell production that's happening from fasting. Same thing when we look at coffee, right? Like, when we look at coffee, we can say, well, aren't I allowed to have coffee in my fasting window? Sure. So maybe you're in a 2-day, 48-hour fast. Maybe you decide, I'm not going to skip coffee. I'm not going to put any creams in it. I'm just going to have a really good organic coffee that's high in polyphenols. And I'm going to put that in this fasting window where I'm already making these stem cells, and I'm going to start to stack my stem cell hacks. You see where I'm going with this? So now that I've been teaching you all this metabolic switch, I want to start diving deeper into what do we know about food and how do we pair that with fasting to accelerate some magic in your body and slow down things like the aging process.
What we know is, especially for women as they go through menopause, that after 40, our estrogen levels are going to start to go down. Now, because our brain has been utilizing estrogen for most of our lives, when estrogen goes away, what I want you to realize is that your brain is like, I think of it like a wound that hasn't fully healed, like a cut that hasn't fully created a scab, and you took the Band-Aid off and it's still very exposed and raw. That is literally how our brain is after 40 as we lose estrogen. And so it takes about 10 to 15 years after 40 for the brain to recalibrate to the loss of estrogen. But all it is that we needed time to recalibrate to the loss of estrogen. And you hear it with a lot of women where they say 40s and 50s were tough, but once I got mid 50s, got into my 60s, like my brain post-menopausal started working a lot better. And the reason is it's just your brain recalibrated. Here's the thing about estrogen that's so interesting is estrogen is the precursor to serotonin. You need estrogen to make serotonin. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter that makes you feel like everything is okay, that you feel good, you feel happy and satisfied. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that makes you motivate and makes you go get more. So when we're chasing dopamine, what should happen is, let's say you have a goal, and that goal is, let's just use losing weight. Let's say your goal is to drop 10 pounds. So you go after the goal. When you hit it, what should happen is you should have this dopamine rush, and then serotonin should come in and backfill dopamine and be like, that's amazing. You lost 10 pounds. Congratulations. And you should like walk around for a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, being like, oh my gosh, I lost 10 pounds. I'm so excited. But when we lose estrogen, we lose serotonin. And without serotonin, we're just dopamine chasing. So we get a goal, we hit something with our health. I'm just going to keep it in the context of health. We hit, let's say, that 10-pound mark, and the brain goes, okay, well, that was good, but maybe I could lose more. Maybe I could do more. And the brain starts chasing more and more and more. We do the same thing. I mean, people do it with accumulation of stuff. I mean, how many of us have bought a new piece of clothing and been like, oh my God, I love this. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, that old thing, shit, I'm going to go buy something else. That's like dopamine chasing. When you get a really big high, you start chasing more and more dopamine. So dopamine is a bit of a liar. Like I am, the more I'm like understanding dopamine, the less I'm attracted to it, because it's only there to help us motivate. And we really need to work on serotonin and backfill in serotonin so that once we achieve the goal, that serotonin lets us marinate in the excitement of that achievement. But for women over 40, if we don't have serotonin, we're literally never satisfied. And how many of you resonate with that? Like you walk around, right? And you get something, your life might be great. I started to notice this in my practice, that it was like, I was like scratching my head. I was like, all these people, mostly women, but all these people were coming into my practice going, I'm in Silicon Valley. And they're like, I live in a beautiful home. My children are amazing. My relationships are amazing. I'm traveling to amazing people, and I'm depressed. Why am I depressed? And it's this relationship between dopamine and serotonin that we have to mind. And after 40, you're not getting a lot of serotonin. And if you're a dopamine junkie, you are like addicted to keep going after more and more and more. The other thing that I really want to point out, and this applies to every woman, those of you that are 30, this is something interesting to think about. The research shows that when estrogen is low, our brain is more reactive to stress. And if we have a trauma during a low estrogen time, it actually is going to hook into our amygdala in a deeper way. And we become that OCD brain that starts obsessing on old patterns and old traumas. But think about that for a moment. Estrogen is so protective of our brain that when it's low and a trauma comes in, that imprint of that trauma is going to be so much bigger on our brains than if estrogen was at its highest. So I'll give you an example. If you're a cycling woman, if you have a traumatic situation happen to you on day 3 of your cycle, when estrogen is dipped, that is going to imprint in your brain more than if it was day 12 of your cycle. So really interesting to think about, just when you have stress in your life, if you are a cycling woman and you're finding that you're not reacting to stress well enough, then I want you to think about what day of my cycle am I at? Because it could be that traumatic situation, the thing that's aggravating me actually isn't that intense. It's just that I wasn't equipped with estrogen when that thing came in. So I'm much more reactive. This is how we're driven by hormones, like literally. And if you're 50 years old or 55 or 60, and you feel like, and I'll use myself as an example, I feel like in the last couple of years, my brain got too reactive, like little things were just agitating me. And then I realized that it was because I didn't have this protection of estrogen. So you want to go into your 40s already prepared and having a good lifestyle. But if you are in in those postmenopausal years and estrogen is already naturally low and you're still finding yourself super reactive, then I want you to think about what brings serotonin up. And serotonin is brought up with the 24-hour fast. So dopamine's reset with the 48-hour fast. Serotonin is reset and brought up with the 24-hour fast because 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. So the best way to reset serotonin is to work on your gut. And as you do that, it's not going to be over time, but as you do that and you vacillate between the 24 and 48-hour fast, you're resetting serotonin and then you're resetting dopamine and you're working with these two systems and you'll notice that your brain reacts a lot different.
Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free. And it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool. And it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on this link right here and enjoy.
What we know is that there are some key amino acids for low serotonin. And one of the biggest is 5-HTP. So if you are feeling like you're low in serotonin, a great starting place is to mega dose, go into your natural food store and grab some 5-HTP, or go to Revelation Health and grab some 5-HTP and start taking 150 to 100 milligrams a day is what is recommended, and do that on a regular basis. It takes about 4 to 6 months to bring neurotransmitters on aminos to bring neurotransmitters up. But that's a super simple solution. The other solution I've talked about is the perfect aminos. I like that for serotonin. That's a biggie for serotonin. You can find that on Rev Health. I tell you all this to say you're not going crazy. And please tell the people around you. I think it's so important for us to have these conversations with the people around us. As women, this is what we need to say. Like, I'm sorry, what you just said to me super stressed me out. And I'm on day 7 of my cycle. I don't have as much estrogen as I'd like. So I'm just really reactive right now. So just bear with me. Like, these are the conversations as women we should be having. Or if you're 50 and you're like, something comes into your sphere and you're in a relationship where you're constantly like reacting. Can you say, you know what? My brain's recalibrating to estrogen loss. So just bear with me. as I work on building serotonin up so I can be a little more mellow and react to stress differently. That is so helpful. Once we understand ourselves, we can turn around and teach the people around us how to take care of us and to treat us. But we have to understand our own mental health through a hormonal and neurotransmitter picture first. And then it's out of compassion for us and out of compassion for the people around us to be able to have these conversations so that, you know, they understand what we've been going through. I think that's like so important, because it's not your fault. You're losing hormones. Like, those hormones worked for you when you were younger. It's not aging. You just lost hormones. So let's work on finding that age appropriate balance. So when we look at like how often to do the 48-hour fast, how often to do the 24-hour fast, the deeper you are into menopause, I feel like we need to, in the more mental health challenges you're experiencing, the more I want you to lean into those two fasts. Now, the other thing I will say is, after this 48-hour fast, I noticed this after our 3-day fast last time. For a couple of days after that, I was pretty joyful. I don't know if anybody else had that. Like, I was kind of giddy. Like, I just had a warm, yummy feeling in my body. And that lasted maybe 3 days to a week. And then back to the old monkey mind, my mind went. So just notice it. I think we've become so numb to what is going on in our bodies that we don't notice these patterns. What I did in that time is I was like, that's really interesting. I definitely just reset my dopamine pathways. I'm feeling more joyful. Okay, where am I chasing dopamine in my life? Where can I stop chasing dopamine? And so I had to look at some of the areas where I'm dopamine addicted and had to start to unwind those. And in the meantime, I backfilled in with trying to work on my gut, tried to add in more aminos so I could bring serotonin up. So hormones and neurotransmitters, you can't separate them out. They're like tag teaming each other. So, but once you know them, once you get to know them, you can really start to understand what lifestyle tool you want to go into. It's so helpful once you can read your brain through that lens of hormones and neurotransmitters. You stop personally attacking yourself, and you also stop personally attacking everybody around you.
Can you build muscle living a plant-based life? Now, if you're not plant-based, don't run off this video. What I want to do is give you a bigger picture of why certain foods build muscle. And here's what I want to start with, because we're going to highlight one of the recipes that's in Eat Like a Girl. And I want to start with this is called chia protein bars. It's amazing. It's in Eat Like a Girl. But I want to start with one of the main ingredients, which you can use to build muscle, which is almond butter. Mm-hmm. So from a chef's perspective, why do you love almond butter?
Because it tastes really good.
So beyond the taste, is it sticky?
Yes,
like, does it add
it's sticky. It helps the bars stick together,
okay.
And it adds a really nice flavor. I like it. We also put chocolate chips in this recipe, and so it's a nice balance between the almonds and chocolate chips. It's really yummy.
So when I look at almonds, I get confused. Put in the comments if you're one of those people, like sprouted, raw, dry roasted, and then the more you go towards like the sprouted raw, all of a sudden you start to realize the price dramatically goes up. So before I go into the health benefits and why almonds and almond butter can really help with building muscle, can you talk? I love you gave this tip on another video.
Yes, you can sprout your own almonds.
Yeah,
there's no need to pay double the price for a sprouted nut, but you can buy a regular nut and throw it in some water overnight and it's sprouted.
So you don't have to spend that extra money to get the sprouted. And the reason you want sprouted is because it's got more enzymes in it, so you can break it down. Mm-hmm. Your digestion can break it down. Now, here's what I want you to know about almond butter. So I did a little bit of research.
Ooh, tell me.
For me, when I'm eating in a day, I'm always looking through a couple of lenses. One is like, is it going to taste good? Of course. The second lens is, does it feed my microbiome? Mm-hmm. And the third is like, how does it just support my overall health? Mm-hmm. And almonds just show up over and over and over again. So check this out.
There's one of the things about almonds is they're really high in vitamins and minerals. And if you've been following along on the series we've been doing, there are 24 nutrients that you need to make hormones. And almond butter has vitamin E, magnesium. We love magnesium for progesterone, potassium, and calcium. So these are really important for hormonal production. But because it has fiber, it not just gives you protein, but it gives you the fiber to be able to break that protein down.
Yes.
It's
complete.
It's almost like nature knew what it was doing.
I mean, nature's kind of an expert.
Yeah. Nature
is the expert.
Is the expert. Like, think about that for a moment. An almond already has fiber in it, so it can break it down so it's usable for your body to build muscle with its magical almondness. Okay, but the second...
Magical almondness?
The other thing I want you to know about it is that research shows that it can boost your metabolism. It is lower on the glycemic index, so it doesn't spike blood sugar. So remember, if it's not spiking blood sugar as high, it's going to allow you to go over into the fasted state better. And that it can improve insulin sensitivity. Now, through your chef lens, I want to ask you a question, because we've been having this conversation on YouTube about how more muscle is in muscle, you have more insulin receptor sites.
Oh,
so
okay.
The reason you want to build muscle is because you can now actually have more places that glucose can be stored, and it doesn't get stored as fat.
Amazing.
Isn't that cool?
The more muscle and less fat I can have, the better.
Right. So things like the chia protein bars we're about to show you are so packed with these almonds that you are not only building muscle for today, but you're actually making yourself more insulin sensitive for tomorrow.
So awesome.
Outside of this recipe, what are your favorite ways?
And I didn't even know I was doing
right.
that.
I know.
I just wanted it to taste really good.
Brilliant. So outside of this recipe, which we'll share in a moment, what are some of your favorite ways to use almonds?
Oh my gosh, in all of the ways. Well, I love almonds in my smoothies, and we'll do a smoothie video at some point about how to, instead of buying like almond milk, sprout your own almonds and throw them in and consume the whole almond in your smoothie as opposed to just the milk from them.
I love that.
And then I do almond like a cheese crumble. I do almond. Yeah, there's so many good almond recipes.
Do you do almond milk? You do almond milk just by itself. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, I make my own. I make all of my own.
Is that hard to make? Because
no, it's so easy.
Because there's so many chemicals in almond milk.
When I go a lot of them. There are some that are more pure, but this goes back to reading the ingredient label and turning over every single thing that you buy. Because you hear almond milk and you think, oh, it's probably just almonds. Yeah. But it's rarely just almonds. Right. But there are companies that just do almonds and water. But then the point is, why aren't you making your own? Because it is just almonds and water. Yeah. And so all you need is a good blender, a good high quality blender that'll get those broken down. Yeah. And that's it.
But check this out. Then what she did that's so brilliant in these chia protein bars is she added dates. And I want to talk about dates for a moment, because dates have so many minerals in them. Yeah. And one of the things that I learned over the years, watching so many of you fast, is that so many people are mineral deficient because our soils.
So many.
So tell me why you like using dates.
Well, first of all, it's a great binder in something like this, and it's a great sweetener, because it's got a ton of fiber, which helps you break down those sugars. Yep. And again, it's like nature made a perfect little nugget. Right. And then also with all the minerals, I mean, it contains so many that are really necessary that are more difficult to find, like copper, what we were talking about.
Talking about copper.
Yeah, well, I love dates and copper because it actually helps prevent graying hair. And as we all age, I mean, that's definitely something that, especially us as women, we probably want to avoid, or at least prolong as long as possible. And dates are an excellent way of getting it.
Yeah. And then the minerals, one of the big criticisms, and I don't know if I've even told you this, one of the big criticisms of fasting is, it's going to break muscle down. So in the fasted state, it appears as if it's breaking muscle down, but this is why I'm so passionate about, let's make sure that we're putting the right foods in here. So that's the whole premise of Eat Like a Girl, is to help you all understand how to use food as medicine. And we've got to lean into products to nature's food like dates.
Yes.
Because we need to get those minerals back in for muscle performance. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at building muscle, it's not
it's not as just simple as like, let me down some protein and then go to the gym and I'm going to be strong. Like we can be a lot more strategic about that. Let's make sure we get a variety of protein. Let's make sure that we're getting enough minerals. And then when you're in the fasted state, what you're actually doing is you're cleaning up the muscle so it has more definition because your body's getting rid of all of that extra glucose. So I just wanted to point that out. But dates are so packed in minerals, and we're not getting enough minerals. But yet we're happy to go run to a mineral supplement.
No need. Just take a date.
Just take a date.
Yeah.
So, okay, then I want to go into just all nuts as not just protein builders. I want to talk about the fact that nuts and even seeds, I'll go into seeds here in a moment, but there was a really interesting study on nuts that was done on almost 500,000 women.
Wow.
Which is huge.
Yeah, that's a good study.
Like you don't find that kind.
Yeah, it's not we talked to 25 people and this is what we found.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And most of them are men. So it was 470,000 women that they noticed if they had 1.5 servings of nuts and seeds per day, they saw a 31% reduction in colon cancer. So then I dove into the study and actually found out exactly how many that is. That would be the equivalent, 1.5 servings of nuts would be the equivalent of, I don't think you have to have these all in one day now that I'm thinking about it. 11 whole walnuts.
Easy.
26 cashews.
Easy. Or
17 macadamia nuts.
Easy.
You pick which one, and that showed a 31% reduction.
Can I make a recipe with all of them?
Please. Yes.
I'm determined. That's awesome.
Yes. Then the last thing, because this video is really focused on muscle building and why I wanted to do this video with Chef Leslie is that we have to really open our thought process on the fact that it's not just eating meat that helps us build muscle. Nature has provided a lot of things. And when we look at hemp seeds and chia seeds, those two, check this out, are a complete protein. And they actually have all 9 essential amino acids in it. So one of the arguments, you probably don't know this because you live in the plant-based world, but maybe you do, that one of the arguments around going omnivore or plant-based is that plant-based doesn't give you all the essential amino acids.
Right.
So I've been really trying to unpack that. And what I usually tell my plant-based friends is make sure you're taking an amino supplement.
Right.
But we should be getting everything in food.
In my opinion, and I'm not a doctor, I'm a chef, but in my opinion, and I've been studying this a long time, I stopped eating meat when I was 7, there is nothing that your body needs that nature can't provide.
Yeah, that's so well
It
said.
really does. It's just about educating yourself and really studying all of those plants that are out there. And if you don't want to study them all, trust me, we've been studying all of them.
Yeah, we're working on getting
And so
the first start is get Eat Like a Girl, because that was our first joint collaboration together. But I hear you on that. Yeah, like we talked about this on another video we did. Like, there's a reason we call it Mother Earth. Like, it cares for us. It has one of the ways that it cares for us is by providing us with foods that are so nourishing to our bodies, especially the female body.
Yes.
So nothing came from the ground that needs to be villainized. In fact, the best thing we can do is not alter it.
Yes.
So,
okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free. And it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool. And it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on this link right here and enjoy.
So with that in mind, let's talk about the chia protein bars. These are in Eat Like a Girl. It's out and available for pre-order right now, or it's already out depending on when you're watching this video. But I can't wait to try these.
I hope you get the book and I hope you enjoy these. Yeah, these are basically my answer to like putting all of the most nutrient dense things into one tight compact bar. It's a great snack on the go.
I love it.
Super high in protein. The ingredients are really, really, really clean on it. It does have the hemp seeds in it, the chia seeds in it, the almond butter in it.
All the amino acids.
Everything that we've been talking about, the dates are what bind it together. So it's really a near perfect food. And then of course we added super dark chocolate into it to just give it a little bit of depth and sweetness too.
On the chocolate, we've mentioned this on other videos, but I want to keep saying this because you don't have to deprive yourself to be healthy. I've had so many people, like I think, I don't know if I told you the story, but I actually had a friend who our kids did the same sport together. So you know when you're like hanging out on the sidelines of sports, you get to know the people really well. And after doing several years of traveling together and being in this
the sideline of the sport, she turned to me one day and she goes, okay, when I first heard how you ate, I was like, well, aren't you depriving yourself? But I've now been with you for a couple of years, and I realize that you do not deprive yourself of good food at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I love food. And it's just knowing the art of using food to make it medicine. And one of the things about chocolate that I will keep saying is that there's a beautiful study, 40 grams of chocolate, 74% chocolate or higher. So this is the dark, bitter chocolate. And if you did it every day and it was done over 30 days, it lowered anxiety. So if we got to bring chocolate back into the conversation because it really is hormonal medicine if you use it that way.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, do I get to try this now?
No, I think we should wait another 5
No,
6 minutes.
I've been waiting. I'm going to grab from this angle. Now, we did have some conversation.
Grab from this angle. Oh, geez.
Yeah, but talk about how you keep it firmer because we had a conversation about
this. So P.S. I absolutely love your team more than like. These should have been pulsed a little bit longer in the food processor to get those dates creating like a paste so that it would all stick together. I promise when you make it, it'll stick together.
Yeah, when you get the book, also it had to be refrigerated for so long, right? Yeah. When you get the book, remember pulse it so it's really, really
really fine.
Really fine. And then the longer, did you put it in the freezer or?
You put it in the freezer overnight, and then when you pop it out, you can cut them easy, and then you can put them in individual bags, and then they're grab and go.
Amazing. So good. If you want to know what to break your fast with, I will break it with this because it's so rich in all these nutrients, but it'll stop hunger because of the fat.
Yep.
So, oh my God, so good. Okay, so that was really a nuanced conversation on protein, especially through the lens of plant-based. Put in the comments if that's helpful. I'm a big fan of bringing our omnivore and plant-based friends together in the conversation of health. And what I think we've talked about this a lot is that when we go to build muscle, we think, oh, I just need a T-bone steak. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I mean, there's benefits and downsides to both of that. I'm just saying we can't leave plants out of the muscle building conversation. So you just got that conversation and let me know, put in the notes if that is helpful or in the comments. And we're really excited to be showing you the art of eating when it comes to nourishing your body because food is medicine. First, I've said this on other videos, but I really just want to keep this at the top of this video, which is let's define what fat is. Fat is storage for things your body doesn't know what to do with. It doesn't have a place to put these things, and here's what they are. It doesn't know where to put extra hormones, doesn't know where to put extra glucose, and it doesn't know where to put extra toxins. So it stores it in fat. So when we look at fat, it literally is saving your life because if your body put all those toxins, hormones, and glucose into your internal organs, you would die much quicker. So the body's always working in your favor and it understands this. So what it does is it stores it around your belly, your booty, your legs, your arms, your face, like your breasts, like it's storing it to save your life. But belly is really interesting because that is primarily a toxin and hormone storage. So just talk to any menopausal woman and she'll tell you like, what the heck just happened to my midsection? And it's because your body is trying to adapt to a new hormonal profile. Any of my women that are taking HRT or bioidenticals, same process, where it's like, oh my God, the body, it didn't know what to do with this synthetic version of estrogen or progesterone that came in, so it stored it around your belly. So whether you are just randomly getting this belly fat or you got it during menopause or you got it when you went on all of the different hormone replacement options, here is what I want you to do. Ready? Okay, number one, I've talked a lot about this and I'm going to keep talking about it because it's a really fun one, and that's to start your morning with coffee. Now, coffee is high in polyphenols, which is great for your gut health. It's also good for bringing inflammation down. The other piece that I talk a ton about in Eat Like a Girl, which by the way is out for order now, is that what doesn't get enough press, so I'm going to give it press here, is that your gut microbes send a signal via the portal vein to your liver, telling your liver how to be when it comes to this metabolic switch. So if your blood sugar is really high and you can't get it under control, we got to work on the gut and the gut health. And one of the things we know is a really good cup of coffee, like organic, really low, like small batched, biodynamic coffee, can really support good microbial health, which will help with your gut's ability to signal to the liver to bring your blood sugar down. Now, beyond that, what I want you to know is that study after study after study is saying that coffee is incredible for weight loss, and let me tell you why. Here was a 2019 meta-analysis. So meta-analyses are where they're looking at many different studies, and they found that coffee intake helped people lose weight, especially when they had 2 or more cups a day. Okay, there's the dosage. 2017 showed that coffee was an appetite suppressant. A 2016 review found that coffee intake is linked to successful weight loss and maintenance. I mean, it goes on and on and on, the number of studies that show the benefit of coffee when it's clean coffee, healthy coffee. And now I do want to point out that coffee, your cup of coffee has a half-life of 6 hours. So that means 6 hours after you drink it, the caffeine is out of your system. So half of it's out of your system. So for my menopausal women, I just want to point out that if you're struggling to sleep, you want to make sure that you want to have your coffee earlier in the day. Number 2, the second thing you can do, and this is especially for women, this is especially for my menopausal women, and I wrote about this so much in Eat Like a Girl. It was one of my missions when I wrote Eat Like a Girl, which is out right now for order, and that is let's bring back soy. Soy is not bad. Please, wherever the publicist for soy needs to fire their publicist and get a new one, because soy is so helpful. It is a phytoestrogen, and it is an added natural protective estrogen that when you eat soy, and soy comes, just for those of you that are like, I don't know where I'm going to get soy. Soy can come in tofu, it can come in edamame, it can come in miso, it can come in tempeh. I know Chef Leslie did a really, really good recipe for tempeh in here, so soy is abundant. We just need to lean into it. And if you're still a little nervous, let me just tell you some of the studies on it. So here we go. 2019 meta-analysis means they looked at a lot of studies, found that eating soy regularly helped women lose weight. And that review included 22 studies, and they found that women who included soy products as part of their weight loss diet lost 2 to 10 pounds more than women who didn't. So hopefully, if you're not convinced yet, let me tell you something else. 2013 review showed that overweight women who took pure soy isoflavonoids, so this is going to be in like your protein powders, those of you that want to do, and Chef Leslie did some really cool recipes in here with using protein powders, that the women that were overweight, what they found in this review was that they lost weight and had better blood sugar control when they brought soy isoflavonoids into their diet on a regular basis. And then there was even another study, a 2020 study, that showed that these soy isoflavonoids really increase your metabolism. So please, let's bring soy back into the conversation around menopause and really around belly fat, because soy is a protective estrogen. And something to really think about for my menopausal women is, as you're losing estrogen, your body tries to hold on to as much as possible. So if we bring these phytoestrogens back in like soy, what happens now is that your body doesn't have to hold on to the estrogen. So you're giving it an excuse to let go of the estrogen that is around your belly. Another key point. Okay, number 3, this is super fun. You don't have to do anything much with this one, but lay your body down in your bed and sleep, but you want to sleep in a cooler environment. So check this out. If you want to speed up your metabolism, burn more belly fat, you want to be sleeping in a room that is somewhere between 66 and 68 degrees. But a colder environment is not only a menopausal woman's dream, but it is proving by 2 different studies I want to tell you about that a 66 degree Fahrenheit room for 1 month increased people's metabolic rate by 10%, and they had better blood sugar control the next day. So what's the temperature of your room? Let's get it to 66 degrees. They also found that when you go into these colder rooms and sleep, that it actually puts you in a deeper, more restorative sleep. There are 2 things to measure with sleep: your REM sleep. REM sleep is how you hold on to memory, and deep sleep. Deep sleep is how your brain detoxes. So the bonus of sleeping in a colder room is when we say restorative sleep, it means you're getting great REM sleep and you're getting great deep sleep. So those of you that maybe have an Oura Ring or a Whoop band, start measuring your sleep as you do. And I would try this for a month. Go into this colder room and see if you notice a change in your belly fat.
Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free, and it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool, and it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on this link right here and enjoy.
Okay, last one, another really easy one to do. I gave you 4 easy tips here, and that is to drink more water. Now, something interesting about water is that there was a 2019 review that found that drinking more water helped people lose weight. And they found that why it did this was because drinking more water reduced your cravings. So my first thought is, why don't you be drinking water all day long? And then my second thought is, when you feel hungry, try having a glass of water first and see if that changes your hunger level. A large glass of water before a meal can be especially effective. And people who drank water lost an average of 5% of their body weight in fat than compared to people who didn't drink water. Think about that. This is really interesting. 7.5 pounds of water or of weight can be lost in a 150-pound person just by drinking water every day. That's what this study said. And we also know that 16 ounces of water right before meals can increase weight loss. So these are easy. Tell me if you think so. Like, I try to give you guys really easy things. I want to help you understand why your health got off track. So hopefully you understand what's behind belly fat. But 4 things: cup of coffee in the morning, more soy, keep your room cold at night, and drink more water. Like, everybody can do that, right? So put it in the comment if you like it that easy. Because I like my health to be easy, because the best health plan that you can customize for yourself is the one you can stick to. So if it gets hard over time, it's not that helpful. It has to be that easy. But easy only works when you understand why you got your body in that situation. When you understand why your body got there, like, what is belly fat? It's not just there to make you feel horrible, but it's actually a storage for hormones and for toxins. And then when you look at these 4 things, you start to realize how easy it becomes to achieve all your health goals. So let me know in the comments if that helps. But as always, I hope it helps, and I just want to keep giving shameless plugs for my little babies here that I've been working so hard on. So many of you have ordered Fast Like a Girl. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's just been such a joy to watch you get results with this. And so many of you had questions about the eating window and how to break a fast and how do you keep the results you got in the fasting window. So I created a whole book for you on the eating window, and it's a cookbook along with a whole bunch of food information in the front half. And I hired 2 chefs, one that's omnivore that has some great meat recipes in there, and one that's plant-based. So I took the best that I could possibly find, and I created incredible recipes for you. So as always, I hope that helps, and don't give up on yourself. Please don't give up on yourself, and don't judge yourself by your belly fat. Please, 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 you're worth a lot more than what the mirror might be reflecting back. But knowing that health is this simple, I hope that gives you peace of mind. I've done a lot of videos on belly fat in here. So I want to make sure that I give you as many ways of looking at belly fat as possible so that you can find your door in to losing belly fat. So on this video, we're going to talk specifically about why belly fat happens, and then I actually want to talk about what I call a protocol. This would be like something that I gave a patient when I was working with patients one-on-one. If they came to me and said, hey, I got belly fat, this is what I would tell them to do. First, we have to understand what belly fat is. So we can't just call all fat the same. Just so we're all clear, there are many different reasons that our body puts fat in different parts. And what's interesting about the belly is it's not just extra glucose. There actually are hormones that your body stores in belly fat. So if this is a new concept to you, I really want you to think about this for a second, that fat is really truly a storage pantry for excess. So it's an excess glucose. When it can't get glucose into the cells, we call this insulin resistance. Then what it does is it'll start to store it as fat. But the same thing goes with hormones. So let's think this through for a moment. If you're under a lot of stress, then all of a sudden all that extra cortisol goes to belly fat. If you're exposed to a lot of endocrine disruptors, whether it's in food or in like beauty products or even fabrics and clothing have a lot of chemicals. An endocrine disruptor is a man-made chemical that your body doesn't know what to do with, so it stores it in fat, specifically belly fat. So it's a little more complicated because it's more than just insulin resistance, which is why it's harder to lose. Now, one thing that I don't think gets discussed enough is that actually there's a lot of communication going on between your gut and your liver. The liver, by the way, is the fat-burning organ of all fat in the body. So the liver is constantly deciding if it's going to burn fat or should it burn sugar, depending on what's in the bloodstream. And what's interesting about this visceral fat around our belly is that it actually signals to the liver that there is a crisis on hand and that there is an inflammatory response that is needed. And so the liver orchestrates this systemic inflammatory response. And what's really interesting, I want to specifically talk about one type of chemical that gets signaled off of belly fat that triggers the liver to create a systemic inflammatory response, because it's important when it comes to losing weight, and it's called an adipokine. Belly fat is an adipokine storm. It's a storm of information that tells the body there is a crisis, specifically the liver, and that it needs to create inflammation to handle that crisis. So this is why they say that the belly is like your waist circumference is one of the biggest predictors to what chronic disease you're going to get, to heart disease, and to longevity. It is a major issue. If you have a lot of belly fat, because of these adipokines that will create this inflammatory reaction, it is the most toxic to your health. So this is why I want to help you get rid of it, okay? So now that we understand it's gnarly, it's not just vanity, it's like gnarly as far as your overall health. Now that we're really clear it's more than just glucose issue, that it's actually a hormonal issue, how do you get rid of it? And here's what I'm going to tell you, that there are two really important ways that you can actually get rid of the belly fat. The first, and this is the one that I will continue to say over and over and over again, but when you cycle in low carb, that is the fastest path to losing belly fat. It stops that influx of glucose from coming in, and can actually trigger your liver to start burning fat, not just in places like around the liver or other areas, but specifically because there is this connection with the portal vein from the liver to your visceral fat, it will signal to your visceral fat to burn. Now let's go back to metabolic switching. I've been talking to you guys about this, that the whole purpose of switching over into this fat burning place is because your intelligent body says, hey, glucose has been coming down for a hot moment, so therefore we stored some glucose elsewhere. Why don't we go burn that? And when you go on the ketogenic diet, that is what's happening. You are telling your liver to go burn the fat. And the first place it's going to go to is your belly. So there's a lot of negative thoughts, it's positive and negative, but the reason keto keeps coming back around is because it works. And it works for your belly fat because it has this communication with your liver. Now, should you be doing keto all the time? No. I teach you keto cycling. Women, I've been teaching you keto cycling. Eat Like a Girl is ready for pre-order depending on when you watch this. I have a whole book on what I call ketobiotic, which is a little higher form of carbohydrates in your diet that will still let you go after this belly fat, but will support your hormones and your microbiome. I hired 2 amazing professional chefs to create incredible recipes in here. So please, if you're interested in losing belly fat, go order Eat Like a Girl. I'm going to give you more. Don't click off, but I just want you to know I hear you. I know you're concerned, and because belly fat has this connection to chronic disease, I want us to handle it, okay? So the keto diet is great, and cycling keto. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about some interesting research on this. This isn't just me saying it. It's not just my clinical experience watching thousands use the ketogenic diet for belly fat. There's actual hard science on this. And it's really interesting. So one of the things that I love is there was this 2020 study, and they saw, because some of you are going to say, well, how long should I do the keto diet? So this one was for 4 weeks. When people switched over to the keto diet for 4 weeks, they saw both a dramatic change in both their hunger and their cravings. They also saw that they had 102% increase, 102% increase in dietary restraint, meaning that they found it was much easier to do. So I really want us to rebrand keto as it is. Keto mixed with a fasting lifestyle is like your natural Ozempic. I got another book for you. It's called Eat Like a Girl. You will now know for your feminine body how to metabolically switch. I hope it helps. So those of you who don't want to spend money on these weight loss drugs, you're nervous about the side effects, I am here to tell you, try 4 weeks. The protocol, 4 weeks of the keto diet. My version is ketobiotic. It brings up your net carbs a little more. I recommend 50 net carbs. A net carb, just so we're clear, is your total carbohydrate minus the fiber. That gives you the net carbs. You have 50 net carbs to play with. And Eat Like a Girl, I have a whole bunch of lists of my favorite carbs that you can use when you're on these keto days. So here's the thing, this 102 increase in restraint is absolutely right. But when you look at this through the lens of the ketobiotic, where I bring it up to 50 net carbs, it is sustainable. If you've been following me and it's sustainable for you, put it in the comments. So we hit this place where we're like, I'm tired of belly fat. Okay, 4 weeks. Starting from the moment you looked at this video, 4 weeks, where every single day you are keeping your carb load under 50 net carbs. That is your focus. Now, if you attach a fasting window onto that, in Fast Like a Girl, I talked about 6 different windows. So maybe it's an intermittent fast of 13 hours. Maybe you're going to attach my gut reset fast of 24 hours. Just take your keto diet you're going to do over the next 4 weeks, and then every day attach a fasting window. And there are 6 different lengths. I'm not going to go through them all right now. They are in Fast Like a Girl. I also put them in Eat Like a Girl. So I have a lot of resources on these. But every single day, what I want you to do is keep your net carbs under 50 net carbs, 50 grams. And I want you to attach a different length fasting window. If this is brand new to you, maybe your length is 12 hours. If you're more experienced, maybe you're ready to try a 24-hour. And then when you eat food, the one macro you're looking at, I know some of you are going to ask me about protein. Let's not overcomplicate this. The one macro you're going to look at is that carbohydrate macro, and you're going to keep it under 50 net carbs. Now, a little bit of a nuance that I would encourage you on this one. If you really want to go that extra step to get yourself healthy and lose this visceral fat, I really encourage you to make sure those carbs come from nature's carbs. Just throw out the breads and the cakes, the pastas, all of that. Make it sure that it's coming from fruits and vegetables and root vegetables like potatoes, so that you're getting plenty of nutrients in. But what that does is, remember, we're trying to send a signal to the liver and say, this is where the fat is, liver. It's right here. It's around the belly. Go get it. And the keto diet does that because you go into this fat burning place, and it's the liver that burns fat. And then the liver immediately goes to the waste first, which is amazing. So I'm really excited for you to try this. Please, if you have lost belly fat using these videos, using the keto diet, using fasting, can you please put it in the comments so that the newbies know that this works? I mean, what have you got to lose? And I really want to shout out to those of you who are on the weight loss drugs. If you want to get off of them, try this and then see if you can taper down, because what research shows is that it kills hunger. I mean, most of us who have built fasting lifestyles will tell you the same thing. But it's that fasting window with the keto diet combination for 4 weeks. Try it for 4 weeks and then report back. You're that powerful. I want you to believe in yourself. Okay? You got this.
Okay, where are my gals that are struggling with hormonal imbalance? Bloated, feeling like you're not making progress with weight loss? You need to add these foods in so that you can support better hormonal health. There is a lifestyle that estrogen wants you to live, and there is a lifestyle that progesterone wants you to live.